Hello, hello, hello. Test, 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 test. Audio's good. Video's good. Should be good to go. How's everyone doing? The crypto market's pretty tightly wound, right? And everyone's kind of wondering what the hell's going on, myself included. But hopefully by the end of the stream, maybe we'll have a little bit more insight as to what's going on here. So first, let's, as we always do, let's take a look at the macro picture, and then we'll zoom in to see what insights we can glean. So first and foremost, let's look at the daily cloud. New advancement here since the last stream. We see a Kumo twist here. So now we have a quote unquote it's called a Kumo twist. Kumo twist. And all that is basically, so you see how like this thing right here, all this right here, this is called the Kumo. It can act as support and resistance, and without going into too much detail, it can forecast the likelihood of something happening, right? And right now we see a bullish twist, which is good. Okay, and we also see that we're kind of finding. So if we look at this blue line here, right, follow this all the way over here. This is called the Tenkan. We're kind of like finding support on it right now. We do have like another hour or two until the daily candle closes, but for right now, we're kind of finding support on it in the form of a doji, which is good because we're seeing a little bit of a downtrend, and a doji would show a potential reversal of some sort. But most importantly, what we see is that we see this like flat top on the Kumo here, and typically with the flat top, if the price manages to enter and close inside the Kumo, it acts as like like a magnet of sorts, which means maybe you've seen people on Twitter talk about like an edge to edge play, edge to edge, or maybe E to E. You've maybe seen people say that. But what that means is basically if you can close inside the cloud, it has a high likelihood of running to the other end of the cloud, especially if it's got a flat top like this, and vice versa on the bottom. If it comes in from the top, it'll come down here, and from there you can reevaluate whether it's going to go through or bounce, right? But it gives you a nice risk to reward if you can get a close inside the cloud. So we're not there yet, but we are seeing again, we're finding support on the Tenkan. We have yet to find support on the daily 50, but this bullish twist is a step in the right direction. If we look at the weekly cloud, the weekly cloud is you see the weekly. Let me get my stylus up here. The weekly Tenkan and the weekly 50 EMA are just overhead. So obviously we're most likely not going to just rally in the next like hour or two, but today's a special day, right? So we get, not only do we get a daily and a weekly close, but we also get a monthly close at the same time. So it's like it's a very significant point. If we can look at the weekly B bands, the Bollinger Bands, right? We see that they're just squeezing and squeezing and squeezing and consolidating along with the volume here. So we see volume consolidating here. The B bands, here's the BBW, which is just the width of the B bands. Still squeezing. It's been squeezing ever since the top. And now, if we look at the monthly, we see that we're sitting right on the monthly midline. So right now it's acting as support, which is good. We'll know more information when the monthly candle actually closes, which is again going to be in a couple hours. But for now, it's showing the midline is proving to be support for the monthly B bands, and the daily is showing consolidation and support on the midline as well. On top of that, the new meme that everyone's liking to talk about right now is this compound fulcrum that Peter Brandt likes to talk about. The calm pound fulcrum, which looks like a head and shoulders, but it's at the bottom of a trend. So it's like a reversal. Okay, it just looks like this. So it goes, shoulder. Let's make this black so it stands out. Shoulder, head, shoulder. And typically you want to see like an upward sloping neckline, which is what we see here. So we see the left shoulder, we see the head, the right shoulder, and now we're kind of seeing this upward moving thing, which if we look at it on like a 4-hour time scale is actually a nice supply and demand channel. It's the first one we've seen since the beginning of this bear market. So, you can argue that we're starting to see a change of character right now, and it's at a really nice spot because it's at the tail end of a compound fulcrum, which is a very powerful reversal pattern. And it's also coinciding with a lot of alts that look like they're about to break out. So if any of you guys who like to trade altcoins know exactly what I'm talking about. Like they look like they're about to they're itching to break out. They look like they're ready to go. So if you look at like the 4-hour time scale, or maybe even the 2-hour time scale, for example, let's get rid of you. We can see this really nice supply and demand channel here. Okay, and all a supply and demand channel is just from a Wyckofian standpoint, we see that when the price comes to the bottom, we see sellers come in. When the price goes to the top, we see, I said that backwards. When the price goes to the bottom, we see buyers step in, the demand. And when the sellers step in is near the top, and we see this really nice midline that kind of separates the two sections. So this is the first time we've actually seen a clean channel like this since the beginning of the bear market. And it should be noted that if you look at like the 12-hour time scale, for example, look at this red line here. So we see this descending trend line here, this giant red line. We're just kind of just meandering right through it. And what I think is going to happen, everyone's expecting to see this like rip-roaring thing just pop right through there. And I personally don't think that's what's going to happen. I think what's actually going to happen is we're going to snake right through this. We're going to snake right through this thing in the supply and demand channel. It's going to go here. It's going to go here, and it's just going to snake right out. And then we're going to see price action take place. I don't think it's going to pop through. It's not going to run stops. It's going to grind through it if it does go through it at all. Right? That's not to say it has to go through it because maybe it encounters it and it drops. That's always a possibility. But for right now, I'm leaning pretty bullish on this thing, and in my opinion, if it's going to break out, it's not going to be a snap thing like this, or this. It's just going to grind through it, something more like this. Something more like this guy. I would just kind of just nothing terribly exciting. Because what it does is it stacks up the longs and it stacks up the shorts, and then it liquidates the shorts on the way up. So it's looking very bullish right now, right? What else can we say about this at the moment? If this also, well, okay, I basically covered that. Okay. On top of, obviously what Bitcoin's doing, the altcoins, again, look very bullish right now. So that, that confluence of market conditions has me leaning pretty bullish right now. And I haven't felt bullish about the entire market in a long time. So this is kind of, I have to like dust off my bearish ways and kind of look at it through the bullish lens again. And yeah, the market looks primed. So before I go any further, let's go ahead and look at some of these questions people are talking about here. Weekly, monthly, quarterly close coming up. Yep. Most important day for Bitcoin of the year. I agree. Glad to catch a live stream. Well, I'm glad to have you. You've been catching these streams since the beginning. Your name looks familiar. So difference between a supply and demand channel versus a bear flag. So a bear flag is a supply and demand channel. It is just a different form of it, right? But the difference here, if this is what most of crypto Twitter does wrong with their Wyckoff analysis. People just look at these pictures and they throw these schematics on there like, oh, this looks like this. But there's a lot of missing information if you don't look at the volume signature here. And what we're seeing here is we're seeing most of the volume swell on the way up, and the volume is weak or contracting on the way down. So, we see volume swell on the way up. Again, volume swelling on the way up. We saw this gigantic shakeout here, right here. And there's not a whole lot of selling pressure aside from this bar right here. Other than that, it's mostly bullish pressure that's moving it. And then the selling comes from the lack of bullish pressure, not necessarily to say that the bears are stepping in to overwhelm the buyers. So it's a little bit of a different scenario than a typical bear flag. And if we look at this retracement here, well, okay, that's fair. But yeah, so it just has a different volume signature than what we would expect from a bear flag, right? The volume is actually picking up into support and more relaxed off the rallies. Can you show how to display the supply and demand channel? Oh yeah, it's just a little thing over here. Can you see this? So it's just a tool. So it's under the lines. I have it clipped off my screen at the moment, but if you go on the left side, it's just the same thing where you draw, your standard trend line. It's at the bottom, and it looks like this button right here. It's just this. So you would go like this. This is how you draw it. Like technically from a Wyckoff standpoint, you would draw it like this. So you take the low, you take the second low, which I guess it would be. You can argue this, but you go from here and then you go to the next high. So it makes like this little like V shape. So you go low, low, and then you go to the high. And then if you just extend this, is how you get the supply and demand channel. But there are a couple of different interpretations. So like you can actually you can make an argument that like this is actually the supply and demand channel, which you can see the midline is providing support. It just depends on how you want to look at it. This is obviously a more aggressive one because you see the slope coming up. But I'm personally leaning toward this because if you look here, what's really nice about the supply and demand channel is it outlines really obvious buy and sell points. If it's outside the supply and demand channel on the bottom, you buy, and if it's outside the top, you sell, right? And then you keep a tight stop here at the horizontals. So it's pretty easy risk to reward, and it's been working out for the past almost a month now. So, but that's just like basic supply and demand channel drawing right there. And you can see here, it basically came down and tested it. Yeah. XRP and ADA, please. Well, let me finish talking about Bitcoin, brah. Bitcoin's what moves XRP and ADA. I'm gonna talk about it because I have longs on those right now. So don't you worry your pretty little head, Jeremy Quinn. Where do you think the price will head over the next few months? I have no idea. We're taking baby steps here. But yeah, so before we move on to some of these alts, you guys have any questions about what Bitcoin's doing or like anything that I said or anything like that? Any concerns about a possible bear flag on Bitcoin? No, because as I was saying earlier, the volume profile doesn't have like outwardly bearish consolidation. You see more bullish pressure, and if you look at the higher time frames, like the 4-hour or even the daily, maybe you don't see volume consolidation. It's more flat, right? So it's not like the best looking bear flag on the planet. What's the bottom indicator? It's called Squeeze Momentum Indicator by Lazy Bear, SMI. Squeeze Momentum Indicator by Lazy Bear. It's basically like, it's really good for macro momentum indications. So you can see here, every time Bitcoin bottomed, it diverged on the SMI. So like literally every single time. So oops. So we had our bottom here when it diverged, bottom, diverge, bottom, diverge, bottom. And also, you can see here that every time it flipped, we saw a good rally. Every time it flipped, rally. So it's pretty good. Also, the bullish divergence was called here as the top. So it's been really, really, really reliable. Yeah. Anything else? From a Wyckoff perspective, any concern about about all the rallies becoming shorter? That's a really vague question. Are you referring to these, like these rallies, like this? Is that what you're asking? Crypto dinero? Yeah. No, it's so you must have just got here. So this is actually a reversal pattern. This right here is called a compound fulcrum. It looks like a head and shoulders, but it's at the bottom of a trend. And right now we're like on the tail end of it, marking up. So it actually is looking pretty good so far. And of course, once we break this like big ass triangle, this is gonna have a gigantic price target, which right now is set at what is it? $5,800. So that's like doubling of the price if this thing breaks out almost. So really good bullish arguments here. Okay. You guys ready to move on to some altcoins? All right. Speak now or forever hold your peace. So let's go ahead and look at first. Let's look at Ether first. So whoops. So let's look at the 4-hour on Ether USD. So Ether USD is looking super good. Ignore this stuff down here. Again, another supply and demand channel. So as we go through these charts, you're going to notice a common theme. I've got all these labeled with supply and demand channels because they've been really, really reliable for entering and exiting positions. So you'll see here, though, that specifically with Ether, if you look at like the 2-hour, it's probably a little bit better. The 2-hour, it looks like a textbook reaccumulation trading range. And it's seeing a lot of bullish pressure, right? So, although it kind of looks like a head and shoulders, you don't really see like a good neckline here. You don't really see a good neckline here, but this is showing signs of reaccumulation, and it's shaking a lot of people out, right? Obviously, that's why these drops are coming down, and we're seeing very strong reactions here, here, obviously here with the major sign of strength as it broke the horizontal, and now we're on the way out. And I'm hoping to see another test of the demand channel because I'm going to try to get long there again. I would like to long here one more time before it marks up, but I think it might not even need to do that just yet. So, Ether USD looks very good. And then same thing with Ripple. If you look at the 2-hour, do we want to look at the 2-hour? Yeah. So we see a really nice supply and demand channel. If we even look at the 30-minute, I got long on this last drop right here. So on BitMEX, it actually wicked a little bit lower, but I got long right here because there was a nice confluence of support. So if you look at the daily, you see this giant fib retracement, right? So from the all-time high down to the low, we see this 23% fib. So keep an eye on this dark line here as we zoom in. So that 23% fib is this thing right here. So that combined with the demand channel provided a really nice entry and I took a decent size long right on this drop because I think ultimately this looks like reaccumulation, right? So if you look at this as like a reaccumulation trading range, here's the buying climax. Let's make this a little bit thinner. Here's the buying climax. Here's the selling climax. Here's the automatic reaction, the secondary test, this little creaky thing, spring, secondary test. And now this is LPS, last point of support, and now it's kind of marking up. And now this would be considered, sign of strength, sign of strength, sign of strength. And here, I'm expecting that to most likely be the last LPS test before it ultimately sees the top of this thing again. So, yeah. So, long story short, Ripple's looking really good. I was getting chopped up by it for a while though, because that's the bitch about trading, about trading in trading ranges, is that you don't really know what's going on while you're in the trading range until you can identify what's going on. All you know is you're like, man, I'm getting chopped up. I'm like nickel and diming myself, getting stopped out, and then it reveals itself. You're like, oh, this is a giant trading range. That's why, because that's the whole goal of trading ranges, is they're meant to chop you up and either distribute supply to you or steal your supply, right? So that's like the whole goal. So here's XRP. I think it's ready for markup. It looks very good. I'll save Bitcoin Cash for a minute. If we look at Cardano, I'm bullish on Cardano. So let's look at the daily here. We see a really nice supply and demand channel. And if we look like right here, like pay attention to this line and this line. As we come here, we see this little intersection here. So I'm going to zoom in on this supply and demand channel, but pay attention to this one and this one here. So as we go to like the 60-minute, or maybe even the 2-hour might be good. Yeah. So we see it bottomed, and now it's testing the descending channels. So there are two ways to draw this here without going into too much detail, but you can see here it tried to break out, it is now broken out, and it's testing the demand side of this supply and demand channel on the 2-hour, and it's no surprise, it's a reaccumulation trading range. So we see the buying climax, automatic reaction. We can call this a sign of strength, I guess, because it's so far out of the trading range. Then we see a spring. We see a secondary test. We see an LPS, and now it's kind of finding a support on the demand line as it marks up. So I've been holding our Cardano long for a few days now. I kind of jumped the gun on what I thought was an LPS test. I got long like right here, so I've been kind of riding this out, but I think ultimately it's gonna perform really well, because once it breaks out of this trading range, it's gonna break this long-term downtrend, and we should see some serious buying step in. So I think Cardano looks really good. So someone has a question on the stream. When I first learned of market cycles, I was bummed out by the long, boring flat between them. Will we have that in Bitcoin for years, maybe? Maybe. I mean, it's hard to tell right now. Let's go ahead and talk about EOS, because I just grabbed a long on EOS. So same deal as Cardano, except less aggressive. I think EOS is going to perform really well, though. So we see, again, supply and demand channel. Here we see two of them. So the reason why you see two of them is because you can draw it two different ways. You can either use two lows and one high, or two highs and one low. So that's why you see this like nice little zone here. But anyway, since it bottomed, it made a really nice supply and demand channel, which actually, I guess I accidentally moved it, so I need to fix that. I'll go ahead and fix that right now. Oh, it just looked weird on the daily. Okay. So here's the supply and demand channel. You can see that it's interacting with the midline of the main one, right? So you follow this midline here. It's finding support there. It found support on the bottom of the demand channel, and the moment it broke the bottom of the demand channel, I took a long. So as soon as I saw it break it, I just market bought. I didn't care because it had such a great risk to reward, and not only that, but it's looking like a nice accumulation trading range here. So we see accumulation on the downside, and now this looks like just LPS tests. So all the way up, LPS, 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 and probably going to see a move to the upside. What else? Let's go ahead and look at, of course, got to look at Litecoin for freaking sure, because Litecoin's just crushing it. Or I think it's going to, okay? Don't hold my feet to the fire here, but so these are daily candles. These are daily candles for Litecoin, and this is by far the biggest trading range I've seen so far for crypto. Ether had a really long reaccumulation trading range. Of course, Bitcoin had a long one, but it was not as long as this. Okay, so this reaccumulation has been going on for a year and a half now. So I guess May of 2017. Yeah, May of 2017 till now. So a year and a half of reaccumulation, right? We saw a very strong shakeout here below the trading range, and now we see this low volume spring here. And now, so pay attention to this thick blue line as we zoom in, because this is going to be the bottom of the macro trading range. So if you look at the 2 hour here, the bottom of the macro trading range is, maybe we'll look at the 4 hour instead. The bottom of the macro trading range is here, this little bro right here. And when we saw that huge flood of volume, that was, not only was it a test of the macro, let's go ahead and label this a little bit, macro TR, but it was also a sign of strength for this like 4 hour accumulation. So we see the selling climax, automatic reaction, secondary test, secondary test, we clearly a spring, and then a low volume retest. And now, this is what we want to see, exiting the bottom of a trading range, is we want to see this nice supply and demand channel, because this is the if you follow Wyckoff sort of stuffs, this would be our change of character right here, where it starts obeying this supply and demand channel very nicely. And it also just coincides with these last point of support tests. And I think when this thing breaks out, it's going to break out just like incredibly violently to the upside. I'm expecting this thing to see like a very strong rally like this, or like this, or potentially like this. Like it's going to be something that you're going to wake up and you're like, what the fuck? This thing just doubled and it tripled and it just keeps going. And it's going to do that. Like, look how consolidated this volume is. This is just a disgustingly consolidated reaccumulation trading range. And if this thing plays out, it's got an amazing outlook, because this is just the trading range. So if this thing is consolidated this long, we can expect the price target of this thing just to be astronomical. It's going to be, if it breaks out, it's going to be a nice play. Okay. So I've been building a position on Litecoin for basically a week now, just kind of adding on the dips and whatnot. And so I've got a nice sizable position, and I'm waiting for it to break out. Okay. Let's go back to I think Tron is going to do well. So Tron is in this this accumulation trading range. I don't have it labeled, but you can clearly see the outline or the boundaries of it. So trading range here. We saw a spring where it makes a new low. It's on very low volume, no volume there. So this is clearly a low volume shakeout. It sees a sign of strength here. And now it's consolidating in this like bull pennant symmetrical triangle thing. And when it breaks out, I think Tron's going to rip as well. So I skipped Bitcoin Cash because I'm saving that for last because it's a little bit more complicated. It's not as clean of a trading range as a lot of these other ones are. But yeah, I think Tron has a good outlook. And now of course we got to talk about Sciacoin, right? If you've been following the stream, we've been following Sciacoin since this accumulation trading range. Okay, so right now, if we look at the daily candles of Sciacoin, we see that it's like near all-time low values. Okay, which doesn't mean a whole lot of anything if there's not a trading range to accompany it, because it could just keep bleeding. But that's not what we see. We see a really nice accumulation trading range down here, and it looks really nice. So again, just like Bitcoin is making a compound fulcrum, so is Sciacoin. So we see the left shoulder, the head, the right shoulder, and now it's kind of doing this thing. But so basically, you can think of a compound fulcrum as like a very specific type of accumulation trading range. So here's your trading range here. You see the selling climax, automatic reaction, secondary test, sign of strength, but it had to shake some people out because we saw supply surface. So we can call this maybe a spring, if you want to call it that, or you can just call it a secondary test, whatever. And then we see here a major, we would call this a major, in my opinion, a major sign of strength, because we see very high volume all the way to the top of the trading range. And now it's just consolidating here. And I just like Litecoin, I think Sciacoin is, because when Sciacoin breaks out, I mean, if you've been trading Sciacoin at any point in the past, when it breaks out, it just rips hard as fuck. It's like you either have it or you don't, and it just goes, right? And when Sciacoin goes, I think it's going to see potentially 4 to 5x returns if this manages to break out of this accumulation trading range. It's primed, it's set. It's just waiting for the OK signal. Chris is saying the B bands look consolidated on the 3-day. Oh yeah, they sure do. Oh wow, yeah, they sure do. They are very consolidated here. So this is ready to go. So last time they were consolidated this much, we saw pop for a nice, just a casual 1,200% return. 1,200%, 1,300%. No big deal. So several of us in the Bitcoin Schmitcoin Trading Community have been eyeballing the golden pony, as we call it, for a while, and we're expecting good things from this guy. Which reminds me, if you've ever been curious about joining my trading group, there's a coupon code right now to get in on the action. Go to bitcoinschmitcoin.com and use the coupon code BULL50. It's gonna be valid until the end of October. So if you're interested in doing that, go ahead and sign up and join in on the conversation, because there's a lot of good conversation going on. Everyone's discussing their trades, and it's really nice. Another coin. Let's go ahead and talk about Stellar. So if you look at the daily on Stellar, we see this gigantic, I don't even want to call it a bull pennant, because I don't like calling things this big a bull pennant. I'd be more inclined to call it a symmetrical triangle. Whatever you want to call it. We're sitting on top of it, right? So pay attention to this downtrend this top line as I zoom in. Would you look at that? It's making another one right on top of this thing. So if we go ahead and look at price targets for this gigantic symmetrical triangle, this is going to be the conservative way to do it. We can expect 27.21. So whatever this is, we can expect this thing just to explode. So I've been building a nice position here ever since it showed this sign of strength. I think I bought some back here, but I built the majority of my position right up here. And I think Stellar is going to do really, really well. Um, okay. Oh, also Komodo. I'd never traded Komodo before. I don't know shit about Komodo, but the chart looks nice. So if we look at it on the daily perspective, we see here that it looks like a giant accumulation trading range, with this being like a sort of spring as it sits below the most recent violent low. And if we look closer, this looks like an accumulation trading range. So at the bottom of this gigantic downtrend, sits this accumulation trading range here. So if we draw it like something like that, we see selling climax, automatic reaction, secondary test, sign of strength, spring, and now it's kind of waiting for the next sign of strength to pop up to the top of the trading range. So obviously similar theme to a lot of these altcoins. They all look like they're in accumulations right now, which leads me to believe that's why I'm mostly leaning bullish on Bitcoin. It's not even necessarily that Bitcoin chart looks bullish. It's that these alts look very fucking bullish and they're set up for success. Okay. It should be noted that, like, of course they don't have to break out, but the conditions are set. Like the ball's in motion. If they want to break out, they can totally do it. And I'm building my positions accordingly on these coins. So someone's saying XMR looks good. I haven't looked at a chart of Monero in a minute. XMR. I'm assuming you mean the Bitcoin chart. Or maybe the USD chart. It kind of looks similar to the Ether chart right now. Not exactly, but it looks pretty similar. I don't know what to think about this chart, honestly. It's very volatile. Maybe it's better on a different exchange. No, looks about the same. Kind of looks like it's making a rounding top sort of thing. I don't know. But short term, yeah, it looks like it's in a little bull pennant thing. And by little, I mean a big ass bull pennant. Sort of dealio. Maybe if you go like, you have to be, you have to chop off a lot of shit to make this clean. But I do see a bit of a trading range here, though. Like, you draw it like that. And the volume consolidating too. So yeah, this looks pretty nice. It also broke out of this really nice Adam and Eve. This was a clean Adam and Eve double bottom. Adam and Eve. We see the double bottom here. Dude, this is like textbook too. It broke out, had its throwback, it rallied, and now this is typical for double bottoms. On macro double bottoms, usually you see it break out, and then it sees this reaccumulation trading range. That's pretty common. So this makes sense, especially because it's at the bottom of like a giant downtrend. So yeah, I think XMR looks pretty good. I don't know what to say about like the macro perspective, but on the immediate time frames, it looks pretty good. I agree. So let's go ahead and talk about Bitcoin Cash, because I honestly don't know what to think about Bitcoin Cash on like a larger perspective. So let's go ahead and unravel this thing. So Bitcoin Cash looks like a giant trading range. Okay. So I can get rid of all this shit here, I think. It's not as the trading range is not quite as large as Litecoins, but it's pretty big. Clearly, it's been going on since November, and it looks like, again, like a reaccumulation trading range. So one of the ongoing ideas in my trading group that we have is we think it's going to make this inverted head and shoulders thing. So if you look here, let's zoom in a little closer. So we think this is actually going to make an inverted head and shoulders. You can see it's already toward the bottom of this thing. So we see shoulder, shoulder, head, and now it's making the shoulder, and it'll like round out and break out. But if this is a reaccumulation trading range, which it does look like it is, then we should see a significant markup once it comes back into the trading range. Like I'm talking something like this or something like this, because within the context of this gigantic trading range, next up after the spring would be the jump across the creek. So we see this the creek, right? Creek, and then we're going to see a jump across the creek here. So it would be a strong rally coming back into the trading range. But just like a lot of these altcoins that are making major or macro accumulations, they're not in the trading range yet. And I think what's happening is they're waiting for Bitcoin to break out. And if Bitcoin breaks out, I think these things are going to rip. I really do. They're set up for success. There's so many coins that are just they look like they're primed for a move. Again, it's waiting for Bitcoin. If Bitcoin spoils the party, then Bitcoin spoils the party. But they look ready to go. And if you'd like to stay constantly updated, you should go to bitcoinschmitcoin.com and sign up for my trading community, because we're always talking about this stuff. More hours than I would like to admit. And use coupon code BULL50 for 50% off. Can you look at Theta? Yeah, I haven't even heard of Theta. What the hell's that? Oops. Oh man, XRP is doing really well. Just a casual 36%, no big deal. Cardano is looking good. Oh, EOS had a nice reaction. Nice. Perfect. Okay. Bounce right off the demand there. Litecoin's getting a little bit of love here too. Not a whole lot, but yeah, let's go ahead and look at Theta. Is this only on Binance? Is this just like one of those random shit coins on Binance? Oh, someone's asking to do Neo. I'm definitely going to do Neo. Neo looks really good. So I'm definitely going to do Neo. I mean, it looks like it's bottomed, but I don't see like an accumulation trading range per se. It just looks like it's bottomed. I mean, maybe it does well, but I don't see anything that suggests, you know. There's a lot of buy volume here. So here's the thing: is I don't trust Binance volume at all. So doing a trading range analysis on a strictly Binance coin is like pointless in my opinion, because the volume's all fake. So I mean, it looks like it's bottom. That's about all I can say, is that it looks like it, right? Let's go ahead and look at Neo, because Neo looks real nice. Maybe Neo USD. I forget. I gotta look at the charts. Yeah, okay, this is what I wanted to look at. So on Neo USD, again, just like Bitcoin, it's making a compound fulcrum. So, and just like Scicoin, right? So we see shoulder, head, shoulder. Here's like the ascending neckline kind of thing, and now it's waiting for the okay go moment. But it's just a really clean reaccumulation trading range here, where it had capitulation bottom. It does look like it's maybe shaking out supply still, because look how much supply surfaced right here. So this could keep going. Like maybe this sees a spring, but for now it does look like a compound fulcrum. So, but there's still a lot of supply present here, which is kind of surprising, honestly. Let's look at another exchange. Maybe this is on. Yeah, that's still a lot of supply surfacing. Yeah, I don't know. Might get some good entries because if there's still a lot of supply and it's not like a very super consolidated trading range, typically, well, not typically, but a lot of times you'll see like a visit here to shake people out, and then it'll just like explode, right? So maybe you'll get a good entry here around like $16 or something. I don't know if I personally would rush into a position if you're looking to like day trade it. But, you know, if you're trying to get like a macro position, whatever. I mean, I do see an argument for this being an LPS test. So maybe it does break out, but looks pretty good so far. So someone's asking me on Twitch, does the gas spike the other day play into Neo in a significant way? I don't know. I have no idea. All I know is what the chart says for the USD pair. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. Let's look at the Bitcoin pair. Maybe there's something a little bit more revealing there. No, it kind of looks the same, doesn't it? Oh, because it converts it. Let's look at Bitfinex. Okay, so the Bitcoin pair actually looks a lot more consolidated. So maybe it actually has properly absorbed supply. So Neo BTC looks pretty good right now. If we do a little trading range here, dude, look how good these horizontals are. So we see selling climax, buying climax, automatic reaction, secondary test. We can call this a sign of strength because it broke the top of the trading range. Had this little creek sort of thing. Never really had a spring, which isn't necessarily a requirement. But we do see overall volume consolidation, and it looks like whatever the fuck this was about got absorbed because there wasn't like a run to the bottom of the trading range, which it totally could have if it wanted to. If the CO wanted to test pressure, they definitely could have. But my guess is because it had this capitulation bottom, they probably don't want to revisit this area again. So it does look like it's on the way up. And I bet if we do a supply, I guess it looks identical, doesn't it? If we do like a supply and demand sort of thing, we'll get a little bit more information here. Yeah. So we see a nice, clean little supply and demand channel here. So maybe this thing has bottom to here. So Neo looks pretty good. I would like to see it interact with the top of this trading range again because I'd be curious how much supply surfaces. You know, if it comes here and test the top of this thing again. But again, it's not a requirement that it does that. You know, it might just chop in here for a little bit. But overall volume on the Bitcoin pair is pretty consolidated. So that's a check mark for the bull column. And yeah, okay. So it's actually isn't that bad. So one of the things that we can look at to tell if supply is getting absorbed or not is off the highs as it comes back down to retest, you can see the volume is contracting. And again, off the high, we see volume is contracting. And each time it reacts off the high, so we see, let's say like R1, R2, and R3. We see the reactions are getting smaller and smaller and smaller here. So boom, boom, boom. So that is a supply. That is a sign that supply is adequately getting absorbed, because each time as we get to the highs, there's much less and less selling. So this little last point of support zone, this little supply and demand zone in here, is showing that supply is getting absorbed. So might be ready for markup, which is in line with everything else, and it's also in line with its compound fulcrum thing that it's doing with the shoulder, head, shoulder, and now markup begins. So might be ready to go. So someone's saying DCR is looking like it's in a big trading range. Ugh. What the fuck? Why is this so hairy? I mean, it definitely looks like it's in a trading range, but it's an annoying trading range. This isn't one that I would personally play. I don't like how there's much, in my opinion, there's just better setups to play, and I don't really like this one all that much. I mean, maybe it plays out and it works out well for you, but personally, I wouldn't play it just because it's not immediately like, I only like to play trading ranges that I can look at and immediately be like, oh yeah, that's supply absorption, clearly, blah blah blah. So I personally, this isn't within my wheelhouse to play this setup. All right, I'll look at like one or two more, and then we'll end it. Can you look at IOTA? Sure, let's look at IOTA. What? Why is that? Oh, IoT. Broke out of this gigantic triangle here, and now it looks like it's making some sort of like pennant thing. Yeah, maybe something like that. Yeah, I'm not a fan of this chart either. Just because, again, it's not immediately obvious to me what's happening. And it kind of looks like a bear pennant. So you're basically playing chicken with a giant bear pennant and calling their bluff. So, I mean, again, maybe it works out, but it's not something that I personally would play. DGB. BTC. Okay, now this is a good chart. This is a really good chart. So, I say this is a good chart because you can immediately see that this is in a clean trading range with very well-defined boundaries. It has a low volume spring where it pops a new low, and now looks like it's doing some like range bound shit on lower time frames. So maybe on the 60-minute, yeah, this looks like a shakeout into. This is kind of weird too, isn't it? But yeah, it looks like a looks kind of like a compound fulcrum. This doesn't really fit the ideal compound fulcrum setup, but it does look kind of nice because you see, I'll go ahead and label this for you guys. So we see the selling climax, buying climax, automatic reaction, sign of strength, spring way down here, accidentally cut it off, and now it's doing this like chop here, but it's never breaking below this low here, which is like where it looks like the capitulation and the accumulation is taking place. So maybe Digibyte plays out. It's definitely in a trading range for sure. Is there a USD pair? Hmm. Yeah, it kind of looks like a reaccumulation trading range. Volume is clearly consolidating. Yeah. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Looks like it's a good entry too. If it's going to be a reaccumulation trading range, this looks like a decent entry because it's near the bottom of the trading range. All right, let's get one more. Let's look at DTA. The fuck? Did that just get added? Is that why it's doing that? I'm not looking at this. Let's get another one. Nano. Let's look at Nano. It's only on Binance? God damn it. I could have sworn another exchange had Nano. Mm. So Nano, I don't know what to make of this, honestly. So B bands are consolidating. But there's definitely a lot of supply going on. This might be making a larger trading range, you know? I don't feel confident enough to say anything. Say anything about this yet. I mean, it's definitely consolidated, but what it does with that consolidation remains to be seen, you know? So I'm not terribly confident in anything with that. Oh man, EOS is getting some nice buyback here. On high volume too. So is Ether. Ripple too. Nice. Right before the stream, I opened a long on EOS and XRP, and they're doing really well right now. So that's good. I'm expecting them to go to their top of their respective supply and demand channels. Question on Twitch. What do you think of GByte BTC? All right, I'll look at this last one. GByte BTC. Ugh. I don't like these kind of charts. I mean, it definitely looks like a shit coin that's bottoming. I mean, it's like right above its all-time low. So maybe it does something stupid like this and just like rallies for just a cool 450%. No big deal. Yeah, I don't have anything confident to say about this either. I also don't know anything about bytes. There's so many coins with the name byte in it. Like I can't keep track of any of them. Nor do I really care to, because I don't really trade fundamentals all that much. I just trade the charts, so. All right. Let's go ahead and wrap it up. I feel like that was a good stream. A lot of nice positive stuff. a lot of nice positivity to be shared. So hopefully people are in a good mood. That being said, if the market crashes tomorrow, don't come crying to me. I'm just telling you what the charts are saying. So if you'd like to stay up to date with my thoughts and my trades and all that stuff, go to bitcoinschmitcoin.com, sign up, use coupon code BULL50 for 50% off until the end of October. Thanks for hanging out. If you want to support the stream, totally free way to do that is just share it with your friends. Share it on Twitch, or share it on Twitter, share it on Reddit, share it with your mom. Print out a screenshot so she can put it on her refrigerator and make her feel proud of you, right? Also, drop a like and subscribe. That also helps a lot too. Helps with the metrics that the YouTubes keep track of. So that every little bit helps. Again, go to bitcoinschmitcoin.com and sign up there with coupon code BULL50 and join the Discord and join in on the discussion. I'll probably do a stream at the end of the week, or unless something super exciting happens, like maybe Bitcoin breaks out of its downtrend. Maybe then I'll do a special stream or something. But I'm trying to keep it to like once a week. And I also might follow up with my stock market stream that I did. But yeah. Anyway, you guys have a great rest of your night. Enjoy your Sunday or Monday morning if you're in the UK. And don't stare at the starts too long. Jesus Christ. Don't stare at the charts too long. Bye.